Namaskara and welcome to our next session on the yogic life. So there are actually three grades of sadhakas in this world. There are three grades of sadhakas. One who is a Pashu, and then the next one is a Veera, and then the third one is Devata. Pashu, Veera and Devata. Three kinds of sadhakas. So I want to read one shloka. Sarve cha pashavah santi talavat bhutale naraha tesham ज्ञानप्रकाशाय वीरभावः प्रकाशितः वीरभावं सदा प्राप्य क्रमेण देवता भवेत् सर्वे च पशवः सन्ति तलवत् भूतले नराः तेषां ज्ञानप्रकाशाय वीरभावः प्रकाशितः वीरभावं सदा प्राप्य क्रमेण देवता भवेत्. So what this shloka is actually saying is that everybody in this universe is a Pashu by Janma, by birth. Everybody is a Pashu, and if they make the efforts, if they take the efforts, then they progress and they become a Deva. They progress towards divinity, right? A Pashu means is an animal, and that animal becomes a man, and that man becomes a god, right? So this process of advancement, this process of upliftment from Pashutvam to Devatatvam is the sadhana. So also there is another shloka in this regard. Janmana jayate shudraha samskarat dvija uchyate vedapate bhavet vipraha brahma janati brahmanah. So janmana jayate shudraha. So by birth, shudraha means one who is a pashu. By birth, everybody is a pashu, right? By birth, everybody is a pashu, because when we are born, all that we do is ahara nidra bhayam. That's all we do, right? So we have the animal instincts. So that is the animal dharma. So that is why we are janmana jayate shudraha sanskarat dvijah uchyate. Sanskarat dvijah uchyate vedapate bhavet vipraha brahma janati brahmanah. So this shloka nicely says who is a brahmana. So by birth everybody is a shudra. And shudra, what is shudra? Shudra means somebody who is having all the qualities of the requirements of pashu, right? Whatever the dharma of pashu that we also have from birth. So therefore we are a shudra. And when we get the right, when he gets the Vaidiki Diksha, right, he learns how to pray, how to express his desire, then he becomes a man, right? Then he's actually called as a Dvija. Dvija means second birth. That means he is no longer an animal, right? Then after going through the proper scriptures and acquiring the spiritual knowledge, he becomes a Vipra. And then finally when he gets the Diksha of psycho-spirituality, right, then he becomes a Brahmana. That is when he starts doing sadhana. When he learns how to do sadhana, he becomes a Brahmana, right? So by birth somebody is a Shudra. Then when he gets the proper samskaras, then he becomes a Dvija, which is a second birth. And then that means he is no longer an animal. Then after that, right, then when he starts reading the proper scriptures and gets the jnana, then he is actually called as a Vipra. And only when he learns how to do sadhana, then he progresses further. He keeps the astitva of Paramapurusha in his heart, and he feels and experiences that Paramapurusha. And such a person who is going in the Brahma Bhava, he is actually called as a Brahmana. So therefore initially everybody sarve pashavah santi, sarve cha pashavah santi. Everybody is a pashu in the beginning, and he progresses. When he makes the efforts, he progresses. So the parama purusha is with everybody, whether somebody is a pashu or not. Parama purusha is with everybody. And when the human beings are pashus, right, even then parama purusha is there. Even when we are pashus, that is, we have an human form. Exterior we have human form, but internally we are animals. Even then parama purusha is there. And right, a person who is a pashu, who is in the initial stages, is a pashu, he will address parama purusha as pashupati, right? He will address parama purusha as pashupati. O pashupati, that means, O parama purusha, we are all pashus, we are animals, and you are the lord of us, you are the lord of us, and therefore you are pashupati, right? So one of the names of parama purusha is pashupati, right? For the humanity that is sleeping, right, the supreme consciousness parama purusha is pashupati. When we are still in the pashutva vyavahara, then the lord of such humanity is called as pashupati. Then tesham jnana prakashaya veerabhavah prakashitah. So when the human beings, they start to realize what the manava dharma is, what they should do and what they should not do, and how they can progress further, when they realize all that and they start fighting again, when they start doing the sangarsha, they start fighting against all these sorrows, these troubles, right, and wrong behavior. When they start fighting, then they become veera, they become heroes, they become veera. So at this stage of the humanity, this veera bhava develops. From pashu bhava, veera bhava develops. It means he is ready to fight against all the opposing forces. So he is a veera, and the lord of such people is called as Vireshwara. So that Pashupati, who was Pashupati before, now he is Vireshwara. So that same Parama Purusha is now called Vireshwara, and Vireshwara is one of the names of Parama Purusha. So that is when we understand what the Manava Dharma is and start fighting. So when the human beings are fully established in this Veera Bhava, that is he doesn't have any bhaya, he is not frightened, and he never accepts defeat. He is steadfast in his path. Nobody can shake him, right? He is very well established, fully established in that Veera Bhava. Then that human being he is no longer a Veera, he becomes a Deva. So he becomes divine. When he is fully established in sadhana, then he becomes divine, and this Deva Bhava is actually called as Divya Bhava, right? And that man is no longer a Veera, he is a Deva or a Devata, right? Kramena Devata Bhavet. As he progresses, he becomes a Devata. He is a Deva in the human structure, right? A Deva in the human structure, and that is the stage of Divya Bhava. Then for him, his Parama Purusha is called as Mahadev. So he was Pashupati initially, then he became Vireshwara. Parama Purusha was called Vireshwara, and then for a person who has obtained the Divya Bhava, who has become a Deva, for him the Parama Purusha is a Mahadeva. That he is no longer a Vireshwara or Pashupati, he is a Mahadeva, because the sadhaka is in the final stages. He has become a Deva. He is elevated from his progress from Pashutvam to Veera Bhava, and then finally to Divya Bhava. He becomes divine. That means his mind is elevated and has become so subtle that is in close contact with Parama Purusha, right? So the Lord is the same, the Parama Purusha is the same, right? Parama Purusha is the same, but sometimes we call the same Parama Purusha as Pashupati, sometimes we call him Vireshwara, sometimes we call him as Mahadeva, right? So essentially what we are trying to say is that there are three categories of people in this world, right? The Pashus, who are the C grade people, that means they are animals in human structure, right? So when they are Pashus, what happens? That they are animals in human structure. For them, their thoughts move in one direction, actions move in one direction, and lips say something else, right? There is no congruity between the thought, word and action. right? There is no adjustment between these three expressions. So we have three expressions. One is the thinking faculty, right? And then we speak. The second one is the speaking faculty, and then third is the action that we do with our body, right? So there are essentially three things that we do. One is think, and then we speak, and then we do the physical actions. So for a pashu, those three are not aligned. Thought, word, and deed, they are not aligned. That is why he is a pashu in the initial stages. He is in the stage of animality, but he's got the structure of a human being, right? So in today's world, we can see such kind of majority of people are in this category where they're only doing pashu vyavahara, that all they're doing is ahara nidra bhayam maitunam. That is what they are doing, right? So we want to progress from being a C grade to our next category, to B grade and A grade, right? So in the next category, the B grade, that is the Veera Bhava. In this stage, what happens is that the words and actions are aligned. The words and actions are aligned, but thoughts are still not aligned with the words and actions. He thinks something, right? Thoughts have some differences with the words and actions, but the words and actions are the same. In this stage, for a B grade person, whatever he says, he does it, right? But his thoughts are different, right? We call those people as Veeras. They have the Veera Bhava, and these people, they do whatever they say. So such people are sadhakas. They are leaders of the society, Mahapurushas, right? So the only defect in them is that even though they do what they say, but their thoughts are not aligned. They don't do what they think, right? They just say something and they do it, but their thoughts are not aligned. Maybe they think something different, right? Their actions and words are same, but the thoughts are not the same. So these people are called as Veera, and their lord is Veereshwara. Then we have the third category of people, the best category, Uttama Janaha. The third category of people, the A grade people, that is in the final stages, the sadhakas who are in the final stages, they have attained the Divya Bhava. So what they do is, whatever they think, that is what they will say. Whatever they say, that is what they will do. There is a complete alignment between the thought, word, and deed. There is no difference between these three, amongst these three things: thinking, saying, and doing. And this is the best stage of a human structure or human existence. So we should all try to attain the stratum of Devata, right? So we should all attain the stratum of Devata. We should move from the Pashutvam to Veera Bhava, and then from Veera Bhava to Divya Bhava. And for that, we need to learn sadhana and progress further, right? So how do we move from being a Pashu to being a Veera to being a Deva? Is essentially it is that this whole Srishti is Paramapurusha Srishti. We have to have the focus of Paramapurusha and make adjustment. We have to make objective adjustment, so that everything that we do and say and think, everything is the center point of that is Paramapurusha. Have that Brahma as a center of everything, and make adjustments in your life so that you're leading that yogic life and doing sadhana every day and progressing further. So when you do this, what happens when you do sadhana and when you learn sadhana and when you do it, the mind becomes more and more and more subtle. So automatically your mind will get detached from the Pashutva Vyavahara. Your goal is no longer the Ahara Nidra Bhayam. That is not your goal. The material things of the world are not your goal. So you elevate from that category. You are ready to fight now. So in the second stage, what happens is that you are willing to embrace the struggle, right? You're saying, okay, I understand what is the goal of life, and I need to struggle, right? It's not easy. You have to struggle, right? Just like anything else, you have to struggle. Only when you struggle, you progress further. So the second category of people are those that are willing to struggle. They realize what the goal of life is, and they're willing to struggle. And when they struggle, they learn sadhana, they progress further, and when they get established in this Veera Bhava, they become a Devata. They become a Devata. When they become a Devata, they are in close contact with Paramapurusha, because they have become divine. They become divine. So we have the capacity to become divine. So it is really in our hands what we want to become. Do we want to still lead the Pashutva Jivanam, or we want to lead the Yoganishta Jivanam and move forward, is really in our hands. So one should do the chesta, one should do the prayasa of learning the Adhyatmic Sadhana. This Adhyatmic Sadhana is for everybody. So nobody can say that this sadhana is not for me, because this is very, very intimate. It is not like, you're going and learning and do something and then you're not doing it or something like that. It is very personal with you. You can do it anywhere you want. You can have your own space and you can do it. It is a time between you and your Paramapurusha. It is a relationship between you and your personal entity, right? That Paramapurusha, just like the way you have relationship with your father and mother, which is a very close relationship, like that you have an intimate relationship with that supreme entity. And that is the time, the sadhana is the time where you are focused and thinking about that supreme entity with all the devotion in your heart. And when you do that, then the supreme entity has no choice but to help you move forward, right? You are calling Paramapurusha with great urgency when you're doing sadhana. You're calling him with all your heart and with all your affection and love. So when you call that, then automatically what happens is that the supreme entity, he comes running to you and he elevates you and helps you merge with him, right? Attain that aikyam with that supreme entity. So for that you need to have this Eka Buddhi. You need to have Eka Buddhi, that is, you need to have that supreme entity as the goal of life, right? Nothing else. When you have that entity as the goal of life, and you are doing sadhana and also you are doing Jagat Hit, right? The Atma Moksha and Jagat Hit. When you're doing that, what happens is that your mind gets elevated and the supreme entity comes running to you, right? He comes running to you. He is always there with you, but we start realizing his presence more and more by doing sadhana. So that is what I wanted to talk over here. So we can actually go to our so we have been reading, what is my relationship with the universe and the cosmic entity, right? So we know that there is this Nirguna Brahma and the Saguna Brahma, right? In Nirguna Brahma, the gunas of Prakriti do not influence the Purusha, and in Saguna Brahma, when Purusha decides Ekoham Bahusyam, and he decides like I want to become many, he creates this Srishti, right? So in this Srishti, is a Leela of Paramapurusha. In this Srishti, he himself manifests as the cosmic mind, and he himself manifests as the Panchabhutas, and then he himself becomes the stone, the Kshiti Tattva, and from there emerges the life, right? When there is an appropriate environment, there emerges the life. And that Jiva also has a unit mind which has the three components, the Aham Tattva, Mahat Tattva, Aham Tattva, and Chitta. So when the unit being gets the unit being has a unit mind and also unit consciousness, and it is assigned a name, right? It is assigned a name as Rama, Shyama, Gita, whatever the name, and the unit being thinks itself to be that. It thinks itself to be that, forgetting its reality, forgetting its reality, right? So it comes under the bondage of Prakriti, right? It comes under the bondage of Prakriti. So the people give a lot of importance to their I feeling, right? They give a lot of importance to their I feeling. As a result of it, they become more and more separated from Paramapurusha. They get engrossed in the Pashutva. So so that is essentially being in bondage of Prakriti, being in the bondage of gunas of Prakriti. So this Leela of Paramapurusha, why did Paramapurusha create this Srishti, is that this so that the jivas can move forward from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. That is essentially the human beings who come at 10 o'clock, they get an opportunity to move forward. They are the ones who have the mind which is fully developed, and they have this opportunity of going forward. They have the opportunity of going forward. So in the jivas, this unit consciousness is the witnessing entity, right? The unit consciousness is different from the mind, right? So the I feeling, people think that I feeling Rama Shyama itself is them, but actually this Jivatma is different from the mind, and the Jivatma is a witnessing entity. It is not doing anything. It is just witnessing all the actions that are performed through the mind. The mind performs all the actions, right? So an individual, whatever action he performs, he becomes responsible for those actions, because those actions are attached to the mind. So we know how the actions are done, right? When there is an external object, then the chitta captures the tanmatras from the external object, and it takes the shape of the tanmatras through the indriyas. Through the indriyas, chitta captures the tanmatras, and it takes the shape of the tanmatra. It becomes like it takes the shape of the external object, right? And that is how we get the jnana of anything which is external. So the mind works very closely, the components of the mind works very closely, and we get the pratyaksha of different things from external objects, right? So any action that we execute in this world through our mind and the indriyas, so for every action that we do, we get a karma pala. So the karma pala is essentially bringing the mind to its former status. So for every action there is a reaction. And what happens is that the process of that reaction is to make sure that the mind comes back to its original shape. So the mind is essentially like a rubber ball, right? If there is a depression in the rubber ball, then when the depression is removed, then the ball comes back to its original shape. Like that, the mind comes back to the original shape through the process of this karma pala. So every action that we do, right, whatever action, physical action or mental action, whatever action that we do, we have to undergo the karma pala. We have to undergo undergo the reaction to that action, the original action that we do, right? So we have to undergo the reaction to that action. That is what is the karma pala, which is both the punya and papa, which can be good, merit and demerit, right? So nobody can escape this reaction, this karma pala. Whoever is actually whoever is doing this action will have to experience this reaction, right? So that the mind gets its original form. It gets back to its original form. So the prakriti makes the human being to bear the consequences of all his actions through the instrument of mind. So, and in this world nobody can exist, nobody can sit idle, and nobody can be there without doing an action. Even if you're not doing any physical action, you might be doing a mental action. Like for instance, if somebody is actually not stealing but he's thinking of stealing, so that is also a mental action, and for which there will be a reaction. So whether physical action or a mental action, there is a reaction to all of this, all of the actions that we do. So unlike the animals and plants, so for their actions they do not get karma pala, their actions, because they work according to the design of prakriti. So they do not get any new they don't get any new samskaras, they don't get any new reactions for their original action, for whatever original action they do. But for human beings it is not like that. For human beings, a karma pala has to be experienced for every action, whether it is good one or bad one, and human beings cannot exist without doing an action. So even up to the minute that they are going to die, right, up to the moment of death, they are continuously doing actions, and continuously they are experiencing reactions, right? And if the reactions to the actions we may experience in this life, or we may experience in the future lives also. If there is the sanskaras which are not being fully experienced, the reactions have not been experienced fully in this life, then that baggage of karma pala is there for experiencing in the future life. So even when the human being dies, right, when the human being dies, what happens is this sanskaras, this baggage is attached to the mind, and when they get a physical body in the next life, right? Whatever that life is, that they experience this karma pala. They experience this karma pala, and Prakriti decides the timing of when somebody will experience the karma pala. But karma pala will definitely be experienced in this life or in the future life. That we don't know when, but so nobody can say that I can escape from karma pala. So, and nobody can, if somebody has done, if a son has done something, some action, the mother cannot say I will experience the karma pala of what my son has done. So whatever the son has done, he has to experience the karma pala, and whatever the mother has done, she has to experience. So we can't do any transferring of the karma pala, right? So as long as we are in this sharira, in bondage, right? We are in this sharira in bondage, we will continue to incur the karma pala. So any small or big action that we do, right, everything has a karma pala. It is indeed very amazing how all of this is done for the so many millions of people and jivas living in this universe. So for every jiva, this particularly the human beings, the reaction of the reaction to every action, that is the sanskaras. So we have the baggage of sanskaras, right? So and also we said that when the body dies, right, when there's a death of the physical body, that doesn't mean that the unit consciousness and the mind also dies. So there is no death of the unit consciousness and mind. So when the body dies, so as long as we are alive, right, and we have a physical body, then this jivatma and the mind takes shelter in that body, right? But the moment the body dies, right, the moment we die, then what happens is the body dies, but the mind and the jivatma, they do not die. They leave the body, and they hang until they get the next life. The karma pala is attached to that mind, the sanskaras is attached to that mind, and so when that mind and that jivatma gets a new body, it will experience some of those sanskaras in that life. So that is how this process of this karma pala, this karma and karma pala works. So we'll actually now go to the next paragraph over here. Mother, can you see the screen? Can you take the next paragraph?
Yes.
Unit consciousness.
Unit consciousness could continue its march towards the subtle and with the same physical body till it merged finally and completely in the subtlest cosmic consciousness, Bhuma Chaitanya. Human beings' bodies are made of the 5 rudimental factors which, as we've seen earlier, are metamorphosed crude forms of cosmic consciousness. The 5 rudimental factors are created during the march of the cosmic consciousness from subtle to crude. The human body gradually gets created as an assemblage of many particles formed at different stages in that march towards crudeness. There will be some particles in the stage representing the ethereal factor and some at the stages representing the other factors, aerial, luminous, liquid, and solid. Those in ethereal factor have to move on to aerial factor and so on till they become the crudest, which is solid. So in this paragraph, it's trying to talk about the unit consciousness and why it did not stay in the same body, why it has to leave one body, go find another body, and on and on. And it's because the the body, the human body gradually gets created by the different march of the cosmic consciousness from subtle to crude at different stages of that march. And it's probably going to, and ultimately, so these different factors, the 5 elements basically, that come into the picture at different points along that path from 3 position 3 to position 6, is now going to it's become the solid or the subtle elements have become the crudest at that point. And it hasn't come around to explaining why it couldn't still retain that same body. Perhaps it's going to do that in the next subsequent paragraphs. But here it's trying to set up this thing as to why it just couldn't stay in the same body till it ultimately reaches the cosmic consciousness.
Yes, Mahodaya, nicely said. So Prakriti is present in everything, right? Prakriti is there, right? It's there everywhere. There's no place where Prakriti is not there. Prakriti is there in stone. It's there everywhere, and Purusha is also there everywhere. The stone is also made of Prakriti and Purusha, right? So there is a particular form in which the human beings, in which all the beings exist. So when Purusha is in a living being, then it is a particular form, and that form is called as the Jivatma, right? So if you have a body of a mosquito, right, and that mosquito is also made of Purusha, but there is a particular component of existence of that mosquito which we call as Jivatma, and that is Shuddha Purusha. There is another component of every living being, whether it is a mosquito or a human being, and that is called as a Pranaha, right? So we have the Jivatma, and also we have the Pranaha, Pancha Pranaha, actually Dasha Pranaha. So when a human body dies, so what leaves the body is the Pancha Pranaha. The Pranaha leaves the body, and that is what is being referred to as Prakriti here, right? That Pranaha is the Prakriti. So the Prana is leaving, and the Jivatma is also leaving the body, and the mind also leaves the physical body when the body no longer has Pranaha, right? It is the Pancha Pranaha. So the Pranaha leaves the body, the mind also leaves the body, right? So in that human body, so these are the things that are present, right? The question of what makes up the physical body, right? So the unit consciousness gives up the physical body, right? In that human body, the Jivatma, that unit consciousness was a resident in that human body, and there was also a mind, right? And then there are so many different cells and which are all in the different stages of creation, right? And continuously these cells are growing and developing, and they are moving from one stage to another stage, right? So, and again we have, and all of these are made of the Panchabhutas, right? They are all made of Panchabhutas, and even in the Panchabhutas, they are all going from one stage to another. There is always a constant movement. So if something is in the Akasha, if something is in the Akasha Tattva, then it is moving into Vayu Tattva, and from something is in Vayu Tattva, it is moving into the Agni Tattva, and then from Agni Tattva it is moving to Jala Tattva, and then Jala Tattva it is moving to the Kshiti Tattva. So everything in this universe is always moving, right? Nothing is stagnant, right? Nothing, there is no status quo. Everything is, right? So everything is always moving, right? This universe is Gatishil, right? It is always having movement, and nothing just stays like that. The cells in the body also are constantly they are moving, right? And also the cells which are made of the panchabhutas, that is they're also moving. So now the question has come as to why the jivatma cannot remain in that particular body till it attains moksha, right? What makes that unit consciousness give up that physical body, right? So we need to see why the jivatma leaves the body. So let's actually move on to the next paragraph.
This is the will of Prakriti, and cosmic consciousness in this creation moves on in this pattern. If this pattern, which is the law of Prakriti, has to be followed, change in the human body is inevitable. And to bring about this change, death is necessary. Assuming that unit consciousness could continue in one body as its shelter till it gets merged in cosmic consciousness, we are faced with the possibility of one body continuing for millions of years, as the chain of actions and reactions may not free the unit consciousness earlier than that. This would result in a total stoppage of the evolution of factors in a body for millions of years, as this chain of actions and reactions may not follow the pattern of creation and laws of Prakriti. According to the nature of Prakriti, the creation has to pass on from subtle to crude, and with the passage of time, in due course, a human being will also have to give up his or her body inevitably. This also shows that the human body is made of innumerable units of the 5 fundamental factors in different stages of creation, which, according to the pattern of creation and laws of Prakriti, will evolve into innumerable fully reflected unit consciousnesses with innumerable human bodies as their shelters. So then in this paragraph we're just continuing exploring whether it can stay, if the unit consciousness can stay in one body till it eventually reaches the subtle or the cosmic consciousness. And it's trying to justify that if that were to happen, then that cycle of actions and reactions would not be done in a matter of 100 years or what have you. It could take millions of years for the cycle of actions and reactions to be satisfied or to come to a stoppage. And that would just mean that evolution has to stop, because otherwise it just populate the entire evolution with more and more of unit consciousnesses and more of human bodies, or innumerable human bodies as their shelters. And it's the nature of the Prakriti for the creation to go from subtle to crude, and in due course it's going to keep making these bodies and making these unit consciousness. And I think it is just at least what it's implied in here is that's the reason to avoid this total stoppage of evolution is the reason why death is necessary. The death of the body is necessary.
Yes, Maudie, nicely said. Yeah. So each of us have a human body, and there is a dominant mind which is located in the Ajna Chakra. So between the eyebrows there is this Trikuti, and 4 fingers depth. If you go inside, you have the Ajna Chakra, and in that Ajna Chakra we have the dominant mind, which is the controlling force of the human existence, right? And that is the one that decides all the actions. Now I'm going to move my right hand, now I'm going to go for a walk, now I'm going to read a book, right? So the entire body works according to the decisions of that dominant mind, according to the orders of that Ajna Chakra, right? So so the point over here is that the human body is a shelter for innumerable jivas. So all the cells that we have in our body, the innumerable cells, they are all jivas. They are all jivas. So in this body, the point is that it is not only that I am resident in this body, right? I am not the only resident in this body, but there are thousands of living beings inside this human body, thousands and millions of other so many beings in this human body, right? If you take, for instance, in the skin, right, in the skin we have so many cells which are alive. And then if you take any other body in your, any other part in your body, like, you know, the liver or the heart or the kidney or intestines, like all of those, they have so many cells that are there, and each cell that is in your body has its own mind, and is its own jivatma, has its own jivatma, right? Every cell in this body has a mind and a jivatma, and in my body I have many jivatmas and many minds also, and my dominant mind is in the Ajna Chakra, right? So each and every cell of this body has its own mind and has its own jivatma, and they are also travelers in this Srishti Chakra, right? So one day, like long time ago, you and I may have been these cells. We may have been a cell in the skin or the liver, and one of the millions of cells in the liver of somebody's body, right? So the human body is mostly containing water, and there are so many minerals and vitamins, there's so many things, everything is inside the body, and there are so many cells, and everything is a traveler on this path of Srishti Chakra, right? Every cell is a traveler in this Srishti Chakra. And even if there is water that is there, that is also the water in the body and the Chiti Tattva in the body, right? That is also a traveler in the Srishti Chakra. It may be at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, right? So if it is a living cell, then it may be somewhere around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the Srishti Chakra. So they also have to get an opportunity to move ahead, right? If the particular mind who's running this particular human body, the dominant mind who's running this human body, were to stay in that body for millions of years, then what about all the other cells, right? What about all the other jivas inside, the living beings inside the human body? They also need to get a chance to move on and get a more advanced existence. So if they also continued for millions of years, then they would be stuck in one cell form for millions of years, right? So that we cannot do that. That cannot happen. The Prakriti cannot allow that. Prakriti must allow an opportunity for every cell to move forward, so that ultimately the purpose of the Srishti is, so that every Jivatma gets liberated. That is the purpose of the Srishti. That is why Paramapurusha created this Srishti. So therefore, all the cells in the body, they all have to die, and they all have to get a better body, right? So that there's this process of this clash and cohesion, this struggle that to exist inside the human body, that continues. And at the time of death, what happens is they all move on. All the different cells of the body, they all move on in the Srishti Chakra. They move forward, right? So all the Pancha Tattva, the Pancha Bhutas inside the body, they all move on, and they get down to the Kshiti Tattva, so that they can again, go through the Srishti Chakra, and if there is a conducive environment, then they can become a single-celled organism, and then further become, plants, animals. They can, like this, they can become microorganisms. They can move forward, right? So there are so many residents inside this body, right? So for that reason, right? So whether it is a lizard or an elephant or an ant or animal or a tree, everything has to die, so that all these smaller jivas inside that being can get a chance to move on in the Srishti Chakra. And this is the rule of Prakriti. This is the law of Prakriti. This is the will of Prakriti. This is the will of the Srishti Chakra. So every being, every unit has to get an opportunity to move forward, and that is only possible when the human being dies. When the human being dies and gets a different body, then the cells of the body will all get an opportunity for moving forward. So this is the process of Prakriti, and nobody can avoid it, and this is how it operates, right? This is how it operates, and that is how the human body dies after a particular point of time, when the whatever karma, whatever the papa punya that they have to experience in this life, they experience all of the karma pala, then they die, and whatever remaining karma pala will have to be experienced in the future life. Okay, so this is how the Srishti actually works. So it's not like we have a choice. This is how it works, and this is the niyama of Prakriti. Okay, Mahodaya, can we go forward?
Yeah, see, the only thing is that logic is that the innumerable unit consciousness within my unit consciousness of my body, they're all fairly programmed. They don't have a mind of their own, versus there's a collective mind, which is this Ajna Chakra that you were referring to. But all the other innumerable unit consciousness inside the body, even though they each have a life, go through a cycle of life and death, they don't have a mind. They are pre-programmed like the Pashus. They each have a different functionality.
They also have a mind. They have a mind. Maybe the mind is not as advanced as the human mind, but they do have a mind. All jivas have a mind.
Because they are programmed for specific cell functions, and then they perform that specific cell functions as programmed.
That is why they don't have an advanced mind. Their mind is in the preliminary stages, so they cannot do independent actions.
So they are like Pashus.
They are like Pashus, yeah.
And they don't have the option or opportunity to become a part of the cosmic consciousness, because they're not.
I'm not hearing you properly, Mahodaya. Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, they're not. Is this better?
Yeah, it's much better.
So they don't have the opportunity to think about Paramapurusha, think about and be one with him.
Yeah.
Which is not the privilege in Prakriti's law. However, the collective, I want to say, one level grander unit consciousness that has all these innumerable number of unit consciousness inside that has this additional free will of working towards and thinking about and becoming part of the Paramapurusha. Right, and that's the thing that I'm struggling to see if that understanding is right. So
can you just repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
So then all those cells, so there are innumerable number of them, they cannot become on their own part of Paramapurusha.
Right.
They
exactly.
Go through their programmed paths, and and then they live and die, at a much faster rate than the collective body. All right, that's what I was wanting to clarify.
Yeah. So you're right. You're right. The cells, all the single cell, organisms or whatever cells that we have in the body, all of them, they also have a jivatma, a unit consciousness, and they also have a mind. We have to understand that every being that has prana has a jivatma and a mind. The mind may not be advanced. It is not like when we become a human being, automatically we get a mind, and when we are in the stage of plant and animals, we don't have a mind. Every being has a mind, but the mind may be in different stages of development, right? So they may have in the initial stages, in the preliminary stages, they may have less developed mind. They may only have a chitta. They will not have aham tattva or a mahat tattva, and the chitta will be just pre-programmed, as you're saying, will be pre-programmed to do what it has to do, right? So then through the struggle, what happens? The cell will struggle and struggle and struggle. So then through struggle, so this time it is a cell, and maybe next time it's also a cell, next time it's also a cell, then maybe it will progress further, right? So through clash and cohesion, through struggle, that jivatma will progress, and when it progresses, then the next time when it gets birth, then it may no longer have just the chitta, it may start having the aham tattva also, right? So then slowly, as it struggles and struggles, then it becomes a plant, it becomes an animal, and at that point in time they have this chitta, and then when it becomes an animal, it also has this aham tattva, and then let's say that it becomes a monkey, and then in the monkey it also has the mahat tattva. It is the mahat tattva is not as developed as the human being's mahat tattva, but it also has a mahat tattva, right? So this is how the evolution progresses, and every being has a mind. That was your question, right? Whether it has a mind or not. It has a mind, and through the struggle it progresses further, and it gets a more an advanced mind. And so finally when it reaches 10 o'clock and it gets this human body where it has a fully developed mind, then that is where the swatantra ichha will come, where it can progress further. So until it gets to the stage of human body, it will continue in its journey from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Is there still some question pending?
No, I mean then those unit consciousnesses, only the integration entity now we call as human being appears on 10 o'clock. Now what we are saying is that the cells in the human cells, I want to say, instead of a single cell organism, human cells a lot more advanced than the single cell organisms. So the human cells, they do not appear in that 6 to 10, right? Because then the single cell or what have you, when it advances eventually to evolve as a human cell, is already what creating your 10 o'clock humans, right? So that is
the cells in the body are also in the process of evolution, right? They're not separate from the evolution. They're also in the process of evolution. They're somewhere at they're not single cell. Maybe they're at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, somewhere in that range they are, right? Maybe they're at 7 o'clock, the cells in the body, right? So between 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock, they're in some stage, and they have to progress further from whatever stage they are to the next stage, right?
Right.
So they will become human beings sometime in the future, right? If let's say they are at 7 o'clock, and from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock they have to progress. That cell, maybe they're not at 6 o'clock, maybe they're at 7 o'clock or 7:30, and they have to progress further. So the different cells in the body, they may be in different stages. From 6 to 10, before 10 o'clock, they may be in different stages, and they have to progress, and finally they will get a human body at some point in the future, right? Because each cell has a jivatma.
Yeah. Okay. So then when we talk about the death being inevitable for the jivatma,
not for the jivatma, for the body.
For the body, right? Death being inevitable for the body. The jivatma traveling with the mind, or with the mind and the I feeling, as a continuity of the karmas being carried on from one body to the next. The karma is being associated to the I feeling that's traveling as mind in with jivatma. That analysis, I'm trying to see if that is applicable to these innumerable unit consciousness in the body that's continuously, is much shorter lived, is going through, cell division, cell multiplications, and deaths. In that, do we extend this similar argument of them traveling with a mind, because they don't have an I, they don't have a conscious, their actions are not driven by conscious decisions, right? I mean, they don't have the doership. They don't have the doership. They could expend, any of the karma plus, but they don't have the doership.
Right. So if, let's say that in the initial stages of evolution, you have an organism, right, and it is acting according to the laws of Prakriti. So it is not having any reaction to its action. It is just doing whatever dictated by Prakriti. So it is not having any reaction. But even though it is not having any reaction, it will still continue with its struggle in its life, and it continues its struggle, and by the struggle, because of that struggle, it progresses forward. And the next life, when it gets next life, it is getting its next life not because of the karma pala, right? Let's say that it is in the initial stages and it did not have any karma pala, right? And even then, because of the struggle, it progresses forward, and in the next life it gets a better body. It gets a better body, and until it reaches the stage of human being, it is just progressing because of its struggle. But let's say that a human being, human being is doing actions, and it is also getting the reactions, the sanskaras, and because of the sanskaras which are not experienced, it is getting a rebirth, right? It is getting a rebirth now according to its sanskaras, right? So if the jiva did bad karma, then let's say that it's getting rebirth as a single celled organism, right? So as a single cell organism, that jiva will also experience the karma pala of the actions that it did when it was a human being, right? So this single celled organisms, let's say that human being did a lot of papa, right? Then this jiva will also experience a lot of struggle. It will have lot more struggle. So for instance, if that human being became a dog in the next life, and as a dog, that jiva will experience lot of struggles. It may have diseases in the body. One dog is happily going around everywhere. Other dog doesn't have one leg. Leg is not there, or the body is having lot of skin disease, whatnot, right? So it is going through that karma pala. So whereas the other dog, which is in the process of evolution, and it has never been a human being in the past, such a dog will go, because of its struggle, it will progress forward, and from being a dog, it will just move forward to being a more advanced animal, right? So there is a difference between two dogs. One dog could be due to the karma that it did as a human being. Now it is born as a dog, whereas another dog which has evolved directly from the Kshiti Tattva through the single celled organism, and then to plants, and then finally being an animal. So it is directly evolved and doesn't have any karma pala. It has never reached the human being stage at all. So that is also there. So it all depends where in what stage of evolution that particular being is, right? Whether it already taken birth as human being one time and then it is being reborn, then it is completely different. Whereas an animal which is slowly progressing through the evolution, has never been a human being, then it is different. But the struggle is the same. The struggle is there. But for a jiva which is experiencing the karma pala, then it is a different struggle. So yeah, that is how it is.
Okay. Hence, death is inevitable.
Death is inevitable.
Death is inevitable. Exactly. Everyone will have to give up this physical body. Death only means disassociation of unit consciousness and mind from body. As Prakriti's creation, the mind always remains with unit consciousness. The individuality of human beings, or the idea of existence, is in their feeling of I, which is a part of mind and always remains with it. We have seen earlier that death is only disassociation of mind from body, and not the death of mind. Hence, a human being's individuality and his or her feeling of I will not die. This I will continue to exist with unit consciousness as long as the influence of Prakriti keeps on maintaining the mind. The moment Prakriti ceases to have her influence on unit consciousness and is unable to maintain the existence of mind, this I will also cease to exist. Human beings' individuality and their I will no longer exist, and that will be emancipation, mukti, for them. So in this paragraph, it's trying to draw the conclusion in terms of saying that the physical body, what dies is the physical body. Everyone will have to give up that. But the mind travels with the unit consciousness. The mind is the one that carries the feeling of I. And as long as there is the feeling of I, by the influence of Prakriti, the unit consciousness will not reach the moksha, because it will continue to go through that action, reaction, and the life cycle of life. But when the I doesn't, stops to exist, the influence of Prakriti on the unit consciousness is unable to maintain the existence of mind with that I feeling. Then the I and the I feeling, dies or no longer exists, and that would be the mukti for the unit consciousness, because it no longer has the I, the ego, or the ahankara with it. And in this paragraph it concludes that until then, as long as there is feeling of I, you'll go through the cycle. And when the feeling of I doesn't exist, and it's in here, it says it's attributed to the influence of Prakriti, but somehow when one overcomes that influence of Prakriti to suppress and kill that mind with the I feeling, unit consciousness will reach its mukti, or emancipation.
Yeah. Yes, Mother, nicely said. Was your question addressed, or did you still have any follow-up?
No, it's addressed. It's just I was surprised about this new twist. You always attribute this entire entity of the body-mind as one unit consciousness, and I hadn't thought about that one body-mind unit consciousness has multiple unit consciousnesses inside it. And that was some new concept I have to reflect on, and it's just that everything else is just attributed to a part of evolution and not capable of reaching that emancipation. But it's just they still have a role.
So. Yes, that is the idea. Yes.
You're always attributing it to, this I in everybody that could achieve emancipation.
Yeah.
Everything else, not in consideration, because there's nothing you could do about them. That you then, or this I that I have this feeling of, is only trying to recognize, be one with Paramapurusha, is not at the same time trying to get all these innumerable unit consciousness inside me to say, come on, all of you should also be getting to be part of Paramapurusha. So that's a new concept of my unit consciousness trying to usher in all these other ones form in line to join the unit Paramapurusha.
Actually, in that context, I have a question. I also have a question in my mind. Is like, So if there is a sadhaka who's like, who's in Brahma Bhava all the time, so then maybe the cells of his body will get a chance to progress faster than the than the cells of a person who is not a sadhaka.
Yeah, because you hear about all these stories and Puranic things where every cell of Hanumanji's body was always chanting Rama's name, and things like that. It's more you attribute it to a Puranic attribution of how that dedication and the devotion is, and an exaggeration of that representation or a poetic liberty taken to say every cell of Hanumanji's body is saying Rama's name, but it's just.
It just makes sense, right? Because if a person is in Brahma Bhava all the time, then his cells also get vibrated by that bhava.
Yes.
Right? So that is what it actually means. Because a person who is constantly thinking of Brahma, so then the cells also is getting that influence, because they are also in the resident in the same body, right? So if the dominant mind that is in the Agya Chakra is always saying Rama, or is always saying Paramapurusha's name, then that is the dominant mind is one which is controlling all the other minds. So then it is directing all the other minds also in that direction. And so those cells also get that positive vibration.
Right. You give credit to this, the free will versus, there's this big debate about free will versus destiny, and you need free will to push you to that mukti or moksha, and it's just that you don't attribute that free will to the cells of the body, but that's a thing that I have to ponder some more over. But it's a concept that it's everything in my mind is a model, and it's just this is a subtlety of the model. None of them is verifiable, but that's okay. Just
so Mohdaya, it is consistent. So Mohdaya, actually this all makes it's all very logical, because this whole Srishti is made of Purusha, right? So if the whole Srishti is made of Purusha, that means consciousness exists everywhere. So we cannot say that there is no consciousness in the cells of the body, right?
No,
cells of the body also have consciousness. So we cannot say the cells of the body do not have jiva, because they have prana. The cells have prana. They also have a consciousness. So they have jiva and atma. Jivatma is there in every cell. So we cannot say jivatma. So it's actually not a new concept at all. We have probably not thought about. We have not thought about it.
Exactly. Right. Everything, like there is no this thing where Paramapurusha is not, and it pervades everything. When it pervades everything. When it pervades everything, it is not outside the body, or it's not. There is no. It's like space inside a part. It's just inside a part.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Space is inside and outside, but it's the same thing. Paramapurusha is inside and outside. If it's inside, it pervades everything. Everything you could say is Paramapurusha, right? But you don't delineate an artificial demarcation to say part space versus the outside the part space, or a cell space versus outside the cell space as a delineation of the boundary. But you don't think along that way. But it is the first round of thinking shows up. Each is an individual cell consciousness, but it's really just everything is one universal cosmic consciousness, or thing that pervades everything.
Yeah. So yes, Mohdaya, that is. You can think about it and let me know if you have any other questions in the next class. So over here in this particular paragraph, so that what we're saying is the death is inevitable, right? So, and death is inevitable because all the jivas inside us, they also have to get an opportunity to move on, right? Everybody has to get a chance to move on, and that is the niyama of Srishti. So as a result of that, death is inevitable, and every human body will have to end. And so when the body dies, it is only the prana that is leaving the body, and the mind is not dying, and the jivatma is not dying. right? The jivatma and the mind also leaves the body, the pranaha leaves the body, and the body deteriorates and it just goes back to the panchabhutas, right? The mind continues to be linked with the jivatma, right? So as long as there is I feeling in this mind, that means which is linked with the human individuality, so then it continues to exist, it just goes on. And this point is all going to be cleared up in the following paragraph. So as long as the human being did the human being did actions, for every action there was an equal and opposite reaction, so every action has a reaction, and that is a law maintained by Prakriti. So Prakriti has created the mind, and that from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock the cosmic mind got created, and then one piece of that is in each of us, right? We are all separate units. We have our unit mind, right? Only from Kshiti Tattva there is no mind which is manifested, but when the jiva emerges, every jiva has a unit mind and every jiva has a jivatma, right? So that is why any being that is there in this universe, everything is made of Purusha and is made of Prakriti, right? So every unit being has a unit mind which is part of the cosmic mind, and it functions as an individual unit. And human beings, we do actions knowingly because that is the niyama of Prakriti, right? So when we do the actions knowingly, we get a reaction to that. The other jivas, which like animals and plants, whatever actions they do, these all pre-programmed, so they don't get any reaction, right? So the human beings, we have to experience the reactions, and what is forcing that is what is forcing the ongoing existence of mind, right? It is because of this reaction. If we did not have any reaction, then the mind also wouldn't be there, right? Along with the body, the mind also would have been gone if we didn't have any reactions. But because we have these accumulated reactions, therefore the mind continues its onward journey, right? This is what is forcing the existence of the mind, right? The Prakriti is continuing to exert her influence on the jivatma and the mind, right? So the Sattva Guna having created Mahatattva, Rajoguna having created Aham Tattva, and Tamo Guna having created Chitta, those three things have to keep remaining in a state of existence, right? As mind, right? As we have this abhukta pratikriya, we have the pratikriya, we have the unexperienced reactions for all our previous original actions, and those are samskaras. So samskaras are remaining. So once all the samskaras are finished, once all those reactions get finished, they get expressed. At that time, you're talking about from 11 o'clock getting towards 12 o'clock, right? 11:50, 11:55, 58, 59. So the samskaras are all gone, right? At the time, Prakriti says, okay, my work is done, right? My work is done. And then the mind ceases to exist and the merger goes on to the infinite Purusha, right? So it means that we have to go through the Karmapala where there are no more Karmapalas to be expended. Then Prakriti ceases her influence on the unit consciousness, and there is nothing to maintain its existence, right? Because all the Karmapalas have been exhausted, right? This happens through the spiritual development, right? So it's not as simple as it sounds, but that's the idea, right? That is what is the idea. So we'll be talking about it more, right? One is how are we to burn these samskaras which are existing, right? And how are we to burn the samskaras, the accumulated samskaras, and how are we to not create new samskaras, right? If you burn the ones that are existing, but then every time you take an action, you're creating new ones also, right? You're burning old ones and you're creating new ones. So these two are pulling, right? These two things are pulling us to have a future janma, right? So both of these things are addressed in yogic life, right? So one is called as the Ishvara Pranidhana and another is called as Brahmacharya. Ishvara Pranidhana and Brahmacharya. By Brahmacharya Bhava, you are not creating any new samskaras, right? By attributing Brahma Bhava to everything, you are not creating new samskaras. And by Ishvara Pranidhana, by doing sadhana, you are burning the samskaras, right? So what is Brahmacharya? We have to understand that is not properly understood. What is Brahmacharya means? it is that you are not the doer of the action. You are not the doer of the action, and whatever we are doing, right, whatever we are doing, we are attributing the Brahma Bhava to that action. Therefore we don't become the karta of those actions, we don't get the samskara. So these two things, Ishvara Pranidhana and Brahmacharya, these two help us to ultimately leading to finishing all the samskaras, right? So long as the samskaras are there, then definitely we'll get a rebirth, right? That is what we are talking about over here. As long as we have the human being's individual I, we will continue our existence until we get the mukti bhava. Okay, Mahodaya. Any other questions or thoughts? We can actually conclude over here.
No, good. Thank you. Dhanyavada.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Dhanyavada, Mahodaya. Namaskara.
Namaskara.
Namaskara.